I'm Alan Murray. We're here at the Climate One discussion at the Commonwealth Club. We have two giants in this field with us tonight. Dave O'Reilly, the CEO of Chevron, is a giant in the oil industry. And we have Carl Pope, the executive director of the Sierra Club, who is a giant in the environmental movement. I want to make sure first that I understand where the areas of agreement are and where the areas of disagreement are. On the point of agreement, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has said that global warming is unequivocal and that it is very likely the result of human factors. Carl, I assume you agree with that. Mr. O'Reilly?
Agreed. In fact, one of my colleagues was on the IPCC and shared in the Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay, so
the Nobel Conservation Prize.
We are in the same place on that one. Now, another interesting convergence between the two of you is neither of you are members of the organization USCAP, the Climate Change Partnership, which includes both companies and nonprofit organizations, and has probably changed the politics of climate change in the United States. And I'd like to hear each of you say why you chose not to join that organization. Mr. O'Reilly, you first.
Well, first of all, we did not want to be hogtied by the wide variety of members that are present in that, and we didn't feel that we could represent ourselves best in a group where you would have to get to the lowest common denominator.
Identical answer.
There you go. All right, I think we'll just stop now. Okay, I think I probably run out of questions where I think I can mine the agreements between the two of you. But Mr. O'Reilly, let me ask you, because Carl, you made it pretty clear that you thought we needed to get our transportation, our transportation off of carbon-based fuels by 2030.
Right.
Our power generation off of carbon-based fuel by 2040.
Unless we can sequester the carbon.
Unless
I
you
don't mind
sequester.
carbon if it's sequestered.
And you
can't sequester from a tailpipe.
And you have endorsed an 80 or 90% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2050.
90 below today's levels, 80 below 1990, which is what the scientists have told us we need to do to avoid.
And Dave, you've made it clear that you don't think that's realistic. Can you tell us what a realistic timetable would look like?
Well, I think we'll be lucky if we can get 20%, 20 or 25% by 2050. And it's just a matter of capital stock turnover. If you just look at, for example, the automobiles that are on the road today, which are basically ethanol, combination of gasoline and ethanol and diesel. There are 245 million vehicles in the United States. They last for 15 to 18 years at least. And we don't have those type of cars and that type of supply available yet today. So even with 10 or 20 years, well, 10 years in the US and 20 years of hybrid car development, there's still only a little over 1 million cars in the fleet today. So it just takes an enormous length of time for transitions like that to take place.
And I assume costly. I mean, I saw an article the other day that suggested the Chevy Volt was going to sell for $40,000, which is more than the average car buyer pays these days. Carl, so how do you deal with that? What is it going to cost the people in this audience? What is it going to cost consumers in general to get rid of all oil-powered automobiles by 2030?
Well, we're not going to get all the oil-powered ones off the road by 2030, and I didn't mean to imply that, but by 2030 we should only be producing ones that don't. But let me give you a point. I've got one of these. It makes me a Luddite. For the radio audience, I'm holding up just a plain old cell phone. It's not even a smartphone. In fact, I've got a plain cell phone makes me a Luddite. 25 years ago, if we talked about the phones we'd be having, there's nothing involved in this system that hits a piece of equipment designed more than 10 years ago. In our energy system, we routinely accept the fact that we drive cars built on chassis built in the 1970s. We use light bulbs that actually Thomas Alva Edison would be able to recognize and ship them from power plants, in some cases built when Calvin Coolidge was president of the United States. We need to turn capital stocks in the energy sector over much, much faster. That will actually be good economic news. The rapid change in the telecommunications industry was good for the economy. A similar transformation will be good in the energy economy and what we need to do. To give you an example of what we could do right now, in Argentina, 1/3 of the vehicles burn natural gas. We have lots of natural gas here in the United States, as T. Boone Pickens likes to point out to us. If we're worried about energy security, within 2 years, Detroit could be cranking out millions of natural gas-powered vehicles, and we would be consuming considerable less carbon dioxide. We got lots of options if we start moving like it's a crisis.
Dave, the technology point is a good point. I heard Jeff Immelt make the comment, here's a man at General Electric who's in both the healthcare business and the energy business. He said that technology has turned over 8 times in the time he's been at General Electric in the healthcare business, but has barely moved at all in the energy business. Why is that?
Well, first of all, the high-tech business, the change is a lot more rapid. The phones have evolved, computing systems have evolved, and automobiles, for example, are a lot more electrified today than they were just a few years ago. But they're still basically driven by liquid fuels today, and that's the challenge we face. I'd like to come back, though, to the point about natural gas in automobiles. It can be done. Argentina is starting to see its gas production go down, so I don't know where they go next with gas in Argentina. I would argue that in the U.S., it's the wrong thing to do with natural gas. It would be much better if that natural gas was a substitute for coal in power generation, which would get 5 times as much carbon out of our system than putting it in automobiles, which are much better off transitioning to hybrids and electrification.
But even doing that, even using natural gas to power the power industry, moving automobiles to electric, you still can't see us getting more than a 25% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2050.
By 2050, that's right. I really think I hope I'm wrong about it, but I'm just looking at capital stock turnover.